Vignettes with Reddit, r/IamMama. My ex hired someone to kill me, but didn't get away with it. Ask me anything. Over a year after I separated from my husband, he finally gave up trying to get me back and decided to hire someone to kill me instead. Luckily, the police were notified and an elaborate sting was set up to catch him, which included them pretty much faking my murder. 2 days ago, my ex-husband received a 10-year sentence for conspiracy to commit murder. If this looks familiar, I did do an AMA on this a while back, but was advised to take it down since the case wasn't completely settled at the time. Posting it at the time was probably pretty stupid of me. Please forgive me if my formatting isn't perfect. I'm usually more of a lurker on Reddit. This has gotten so much bigger than I ever expected. Please be patient with me. I am trying to answer as many questions as possible, and do so as coherently as possible. Can you tell the entire story from beginning to end? Even if you don't consider yourself a good storyteller, it will still give us an outline to ask further questions about. For the first year after I left him, he was in pretty much constant contact. He called, texted, or showed up at my house every single day, and it was always constant fighting. He tried every trick he could think of to try and get me to come back to him, and I continued to refuse. About 6 months before the incident, I completely cut off contact with him, finally realizing that even speaking to him was giving him hope that there was still a chance of getting back together. He continued to follow me around for a while after that, but then stopped suddenly, and I heard nothing else from him. One morning, after the kids were in school, I got a knock on my door. It was a couple of police officers, and they informed me that he had hired someone to kill me, and they were about to set up a sting, to gather evidence and catch him. The supposed hitman called him to inform him that the job was done. Then a 911 call was made, reporting a possible burglary at my address. Another police officer showed up, then radioed for an ambulance. More officers started showing up, then the ambulance arrived. They had no idea it was a sting until they got there. Soon afterward, the coroner was called. He also had no idea. A couple of detectives left the scene to go and inform him that his wife had been murdered and asked him to come to the police station and help them out by answering some questions. He answered their questions, I assume, and then was informed that I wasn't really dead, which is when he went into panic mode. This is pretty much the only way that his reaction was described to me. Then they arrested him. Once we knew that they had him in custody, everyone at my house packed up and left. The crime scene tape was taken down, and then everyone was gone. I was asked to go to the police station because my family was waiting there to see me. How did the police help you fake your own murder? The police conducted a sting in which someone called 911 to report a break-in at my home. The officer that responded was in on it, and called for an ambulance when he arrived. Paramedics, and even the coroner showed up at my house, and pretended to be working a crime scene. It's a small town, so word travels quickly, so they knew that he would hear about what was going on and believe that his plan had worked. Wanted to hijack top comment to show everyone these videos. This woman was caught much like Cop's ex-husband was. And they faked her husband's murder. You can see the woman's reaction at the scene of the crime as she is told her husband was murdered. First video is her plotting it with an undercover police officer, hitman. The second video is her reaction to the murder. The supposed hitman called him to inform him that the job was done. Note, she tells the whole story much further down on the thread. Search for the quoted words above, and start there. Then come back to the top. I see a lot of people asking you questions like why would you marry someone like that? And didn't you know he was crazy to begin with? I think it's interesting that total strangers seem to think you're at least a little bit to blame for not predicting this crazy dude's actions. Pretty unfair. Have you experienced that sort of reaction from any of your close friends or family? Maybe the local media. I haven't really gotten that from my friends or family, because they've known him pretty much as long as I have, and they understand that he didn't always act that way. I'm not sure whether he has always been that way and just hid it well, or if it just developed over the course of time. I haven't talked to the local media at all. I think it is a legitimate question, and her response certainly makes sense. She didn't marry a psycho, but a psycho ended up married to her. I don't want to come off as offensive, but do you think he was obsessive of you because you were unique to him in some sort of way, or because you were with him initially and he was someone who didn't like to lose things? I mean, douchebag or whatever you may want to call him. Wouldn't it be easier for him to just move on and try to be with someone else for the same thing, or was that not really the goal he had in mind? I think it was a lot of different reasons, including all the ones that you named. He told me on several occasions that I was the only person who would ever be able to love him, so I guess that made me unique to him. He was also very obsessive when it came to his possessions. Anything that belonged to him was practically sacred. I hate to even bring up this topic in here, but he also became more and more religious while we were together, turning it into a bit of an obsession after I left. He preached to me many times about the evils of divorce, and how agreeing to a divorce would be a terrible sin. Wow, so divorce is a sin but hiring a hitman to murder your wife is not a sin? I'm glad you're out of that mess and I hope you remain safe. Take precautions when he is released. Do you think the motivation for his actions could have been because religion? Looking back, were there any red flags that he was an unstable person? Did he have any kind of trauma, drug abuse or mental illness diagnoses in his past? Also, most importantly, are you okay? How are you handling things? Do you have a good support network? Looking back, there were probably a lot of red flags before things started going badly, that I just didn't notice at the time. I knew he was a little weird, but almost everyone I know is a little weird in one way or another. Yeah, I think I'm okay. I have a lot of family and friends that have been very supportive through everything. Do you have any plans to join/start a group that works with abuse victims and provides them with support? I ask because your experience is so real and traumatic that I think many people could benefit from your knowledge. Once things have calmed down in my life, I will volunteer in any way that I can to help victims of domestic violence. Not sympathizing with the guy at all, he clearly needs and needed help, but any legal people able to describe at what point a conspiracy to commit murder goes from just idle talk at a bar to something illegal? If you've seen Horrible Bosses, where did they cross that line? I'm picturing a guy in a small town asking around for a hired killer would usually come up empty, give up, and go about his life, a brief wandering to a place he never should have been, but this guy found someone and the rest unfolded. It might be based on state, but I've seen so hidden cam video of a sting, and from my understanding it's when money exchanges hand. Maybe not the legal definition, but at that point they have proof the person is serious. You can probably YouTube stings, and I'm sure you'll see in them that the cop tries to get a down payment. Usually an amount will do, it's just to prove the person was serious. This isn't a question so much as some insight from another perspective. My mom told me at about 14 that along with all the things my biological father had done that I already knew about, abusiveness in their marriage, psychological issues, kidnapped my sister and I etc., he also hired someone to run her off the road in an attempt at murder. She didn't give me a lot of detail, but I know there weren't any charges against him. Hard to prove, I suppose. Anyway, at age 11 he was convinced to give up his rights to us in favor of my stepdad adopting us. We had a no-contact order till the age of 18, which was violated only twice, all through social media. One of those violations was a fake Facebook account that he tried to get me to add as a friend. The other was an attempt to wish my sister a happy birthday. After the long scary history, he passed away about 2 years ago. My mom felt nothing but relief and joy. My sister felt cheated. I felt a mix of their two reactions. Neither of us could talk to get about it with her because we had grief and she didn't. His family didn't notify us or invite us to the funeral. It's a weird situation, and I don't know that I have any advice for how to help your kids as they grow up other than honesty and a willingness to answer questions when they have them. Proof is also important because as a child everything I was told seemed so unreal that sometimes as an adult I still question it. When I grew up I had to really consider if I thought it was the truth and whether or not I'd been brainwashed, which was always his argument in court. Good luck and start teaching your children the importance of internet safety now. Hopefully when the time comes they will understand that maybe having a Facebook account could jeopardize yours or their lives. Decisions will have to be made about how private you choose to live your lives, and hopefully they'll be on board. My mom for instance used Facebook with a fake name. Glad you're safe, good luck. Thank you for watching the video. If you're new please be sure to subscribe, like and turn on post notifications so you never miss an upload. Post your own stories in the comments down below.